I-4 is probably one of the most polarizing topics when it comes to getting around the Orlando area. I mean, the traffic sucks, the drivers suck, and when you put all that together, you get a pretty dangerous situation, which is why I-4 is known for being one of the most dangerous highways in the United States. So what's the deal with I-4? Why is everyone over the age of 55 convinced that you don't need to get on I-4 at all when traveling in, around, or through the Orlando area? And why do I think they're wrong? That's what we're talking about today. I-4, aka Interstate 4, is a major roadway here in the Central Florida area. It runs about 132 miles and connects Daytona Beach, Orlando, and Tampa, which makes it not only convenient, if you can call it that, for getting between these three major hubs, but also a very well-traveled road by tourists and locals alike. If you're visiting, traveling through, or living in the Orlando area, or more accurately, the Central Florida area, at one point or another, you're gonna end up on I-4. I don't care what your grandpa told you, okay? I don't care what fantasy that TikTok real estate agent is trying to sell you. I don't care what people say in the comments.
That is we're never, ever, ever gonna get through.
Is gonna be part of the experience at one point or another, especially if you're a visitor or a tourist. It's likely how you're gonna end up getting from the airport to your accommodations. Yes, I realize 417 is also an option, but let's not start grasping at straws already, all right? If you're driving in and heading down I-95, it's gonna be the most straightforward route, unless of course you're looking for something a little bit more mentally challenging, at the cost of about 10 extra miles, adding about 30 to 45 minutes to your trip in optimal conditions to get to the Orlando area, of course. If you're coming from Tampa, I mean, you're taking I-4, unless, you know, you're an absolute glutton for punishment and you'd rather go like 30 to 50 miles out of the way and add like 2 hours onto your trip.
I am putting this on so I have no familiarity with my surroundings. Now this way, I can't retrace my steps.
I mean, it's not my style, but of course, most of the banter around taking I-4 and whether or not you're a dumbass for getting on I-4 in the first place is centered around the Orlando area. More specifically between the Walt Disney World Resort and the Universal Orlando Resort. Both highly trafficked areas that are, in and of themselves, the source of very strong opinions from glass house dwellers that are sometimes a little too eager to throw stones.
Why would you be taking I-4 when you could take the back road? You should be taking Turkey Lake. This is why you take Turkey Lake Road. This is why you stay off I-4. Never get on the interstate in Orlando. Turkey Lake Road, dumbass.
Everybody's getting a bit bad-tempered. Might be because it's so hot.
Look, before I go any further here, I just want to take a second to tell you something that I've said many times here on the channel. And I think it's worth saying again, okay? You do you. If that means taking the back roads, that's great. If that means exclusively using the Atlas that you've had shoved in the passenger seat back pocket since 1998, because that's how you figure out where you're going, that's fantastic. Questionable choice, in my opinion. But, like I always say, you do you. By the way, you do know you have to update those things, right? Like you have to replace them over the years, just in case you didn't know, now you do. But just because it's the route that you're most comfortable with, just because it's the route you prefer to take, doesn't mean that it is the best choice, objectively speaking. That said, I want to talk about those alternate routes, more specifically in the most hectic part of I-4, again, the section between Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando. And we're starting with every dad's favorite alternative to I-4, Turkey Lake Road. And yes, I say dads because if there's anything I am sure of, every time I say anything about driving between Disney and Universal, if the words Turkey Lake Road are posted, they're posted almost exclusively by a dad.
You don't think Dad knows where he's going?
I don't know what to tell you, it's simple math. Turkey Lake Road is a stretch of road that effectively bypasses I-4, running right alongside it from the general vicinity of SeaWorld, like in that area, all the way up past Universal Orlando, stopping at Turkey Lake, which sounds great if you're coming from SeaWorld, but it's not as straightforward as some people make it sound. You know, like it turns out there's a little bit more to it than just take Turkey Lake Road and you'll get where you're going. Because in actuality, Turkey Lake Road picks up kind of halfway between Disney and Universal. That's effectively where SeaWorld is. It's kind of a halfway point, which means if you want to take Turkey Lake Road, you have to either get on I-4 and then get off I-4 in order to get on Turkey Lake Road and ultimately to the Universal Orlando Resort, or of course do that in reverse if you're headed back to Walt Disney World. Or you're taking a combination of pretty congested back roads so that you can get onto Palm Parkway and then take that until it turns into Turkey Lake Road. Can these routes be a good option? Sure. Can they be just as backed up, slow moving, and stressful as taking I-4? Abso-freaking-lutely. Listen, I know that people like to say, you know, just take the back roads, but these aren't back roads in the same sense as, you know, like taking the long route home after dinner from Old Country Buffet so you and your family can enjoy the foliage. This isn't that type of back road. These so-called back roads are very busy, tourist-filled hubs, oftentimes with traffic signals that are, I mean, quite frankly, terribly calibrated. You could be sitting at those lights forever, which means, you know, best case scenario, you're adding like an extra 10 minutes onto your drive. That's with no traffic, as opposed to just taking I-4 with usual traffic. So it's still taking you longer, even though you're taking a different road. You're just taking a different road. Taking iDrive or International Drive is another option, though I don't know that I'd call it a good one unless seeing iDrive or doing things along iDrive is on your list of things to do. I mean, it's really the same story as Turkey Lake Road. You gotta make your way through some really congested areas in order to get on iDrive, and then iDrive is a congested area in and of itself. It's packed solid with hotels, tourist attractions, tourist traps, and people.
People. Oh no, people.
I mean, we're talking what could end up being like over an hour to get between Walt Disney World and Universal if you're taking exclusively iDrive, which that's a long time. I mean, even with traffic, which was pretty juicy on I-4 around 10 a.m. on the morning when I was looking all this up a couple days ago so that I could sit down and chat with you. I mean, I-4 was still saving you like 25 minutes compared to iDrive. Now look, before I go any further, I just want to mention something that I say all the time, especially when I'm giving advice on like making your trip go a little bit smoother, making things a little bit easier, saving a little bit of time. I'm always telling you to leave earlier, okay? Leave a little bit earlier. And you can save so much time, you can reduce so much stress. This conversation is the perfect time to bring that up again, because let me tell you, the difference 30 to 45 minutes makes is astronomical. And I know you're not gonna believe me, which is totally fine. Look into it yourself, okay? Just humor me. Do a little bit of research. Type it into your Mapquest, if that's what you're most comfortable with, and see what the route looks like. Does Mapquest even tell you how long the route takes? I don't even know, that's probably a bad example. Look at how long it takes you to get where you're going when you would normally leave, and then like bump that up 30 minutes. Maybe if you're feeling fancy, go an hour. You'll be amazed, because I'll tell you what, in finding all of these maps and routes so that I could share them with you in this video, it went from a 20-minute drive from Disney to Universal to a 40-minute drive in that 30 to 45-minute period. Seriously. Anyway. I digress. Of course, you can take any combination of these roads that your heart desires. You know, do anything it is that you want to do in order to just not take I-4. It really is a choose your own adventure, and man, oh man, is there quite a bit of adventure to be had. But you know what's really interesting? In all the poking and prodding that I had to do in order to have this discussion with you today, in all the different resources I used in order to find the best information on traffic patterns and what would be the most efficient route, you know what never came up? Not once. Turkey Lake motherfucking Road. The amount of massaging I had to do in order to get myself rerouted onto Turkey Lake Road in the first place, let alone have it come up as a viable option to get between Walt Disney World and the Universal Orlando Resort, tells me only one thing. It's a shitty route. The only time Turkey Lake Road came up was for a very brief stretch of time. I-4 got pretty backed up. There must have been an accident or something, and it looked a little something like this. And the route it suggested was south of Popka Vineland to Wallace, and then finally around the Cabana Bay Beach Resort, jumping on Turkey Lake Road for a stretch of time before we would ultimately get to the Universal Orlando Resort. All of this saving us a grand total of 2 minutes. So it's not even like it saved a ton of time. But look, at the end of the day, here's the harsh truth about getting around Orlando. It's busy. It's one of the most well-known and frequently visited vacation destinations in the world. People want to be here, so they visit. People want to live here, so they move. Hell, it's right here in the Orlando area that one of the country's fastest growing master plan communities is situated. Right here in the Orlando area. It's also 2026 and not 1986. Infrastructure has changed. Just ask all the residents who have been subjected to ongoing and seemingly endless construction on I-4 alone, let alone what's been going on everywhere else. Travel habits have changed. Population density has changed.
It's clear the growth in Central Florida and the cars that come with that growth has outpaced new pavement.
And all of those things changing means that what once worked years ago doesn't necessarily work with the same efficiency anymore. Fortunately, the power of the internet, GPS technology, and crowdsourced information allow us to have the most up-to-date info about things like traffic patterns in the palm of our hand. It also gives us the opportunity to see the cold hard facts and compare alternatives without having to do any guesswork. And here are those cold hard facts. Most of the time, the alternatives that you remember from 2010, even 5 years ago, they're not as efficient as they were back then. You might just feel better about taking them simply because they're not I-4. And that's okay. You should do what you're most comfortable with. But we also have to acknowledge that an illusion is still an illusion nonetheless. In reality, the best way to get anywhere in 2026, whether we're talking about the Orlando area or somewhere else in the country, if you're taking a road trip, you're going to a place where most of the people in that place are people who have no idea where the hell they're going, is to use your GPS. It's the best way to get the most up-to-date traffic information that updates by the minute. So you're not just relying on your favorite traffic correspondent to tell you about the morning commute and winging it from there. And I know, there's like a sense of pride in knowing where you're going and being able to navigate there without the GPS. You can still do that, but I do always recommend pulling up your GPS.
The machine knows! Stop yelling at me!
No, it's
Stop
okay!
yelling!
There's no road here!
Even if you know where you're going, having your GPS up and set to your destination is a great way to get those updates and reroute on the fly, especially if something comes up. The traffic conditions change, you've got those real-time updates. So instead of being stressed out and nervous in the moment, which has you driving like a jackass because you missed your turn and now you don't know what to do, the GPS will recalculate for you, and that eliminates so much stress. You don't have to rely on it, but it's nice to have it there, you know? Also, I say it because I see it. There are a lot of very dangerous situations on the road that could easily be avoided if you just had the alternate route locked and loaded. Look, at the end of the day, I know that there are a lot of people out there who are stuck in their own ways. Some of you might actually be those people, and that's fine. I'm stuck in my own ways when it comes to a lot of things myself. And I understand that navigating from memory because you've been doing it since the 80s or 90s is a point of pride. That's fine. And my aim isn't to try and move an immovable object here, but I do want to let you know that yes, there are a lot of alternatives out there, okay? But the tried and true method to do the thing that you're probably aiming to do is much more simpler than you might realize. Really, it's just 3 very basic things. Use your GPS, leave early, and stay by the place you want to visit. You do those 3 things, you're golden.
First one's here.